I've never been great with words. Not the ones that really matter anyway. I can memorize lines, say what I'm supposed to say, but this poses a slight nervous laugh. This is different. I've been carrying something around for a while now. Like a weight, but not a bad one, more like something precious that I've been too afraid to let you see. And I guess I've been hiding behind silence, behind casual conversations and safe distances because runs hand through hair. Because once you say something out loud, you can't take it back. It becomes real, and the truth is, I'm tired of pretending. Tired of acting like what I feel is something smaller than it is. You deserve more than that. Voice softer now, you deserve to know that when I look at you, it's not casual. It never has been, so I'm just gonna say it, even if my heart's pounding so hard right now I can barely think straight. There's this thing that happens when you feel something real, something that matters more than anything you felt before. It's like you're standing on the edge of something vast, and you know that one step forward changes everything. And I've been standing on that edge for longer than I want to admit, just frozen there. Not because I didn't want to move forward, but because moving forward meant risking everything. It meant risking us, whatever us was or could be. And the thought of losing even the smallest version of that, of losing you in any capacity, felt like more than I could bear. So I chose silence. I chose safety. I told myself it was the right thing to do, that keeping these feelings locked away was somehow protecting both of us. Protecting you from the complication of knowing. Protecting myself from the vulnerability of being seen completely. And maybe that sounds cowardly, and maybe it is. But fear has a way of dressing itself up as wisdom sometimes. It whispers that waiting is smarter, that timing needs to be perfect, that there will be a better moment somewhere down the line when everything aligns, and it won't feel so terrifying to stand in front of you like this and lay my heart bare. But perfect moments don't exist. Not really. Life isn't a script where everything builds to some flawless crescendo. It's messy and unpredictable, and the truth is, I've been waiting for a sign that would never come, for a feeling of readiness that I'll never fully have. Because you can't be ready for something like this, you can't prepare yourself for the moment. When you realize that another person has become so woven into the fabric of your life that you can't imagine it without them. That happened so gradually with you that I didn't even notice it was happening until it had already happened, until you were already essential. I remember the early days when you were just someone I knew, someone I enjoyed being around but hadn't let in yet. I kept my distance the way I always do, maintained those boundaries that keep things simple and safe. I've always been good at that, at keeping people at arm's length, at being friendly and present but never fully available. It's easier that way. Less complicated. You can't get hurt if you don't let anyone close enough to hurt you, right? And I'd convinced myself that was enough. That surface level connections and casual friendships were all I needed, all I wanted. But then there was you. And slowly, without me even realizing it was happening, you started slipping past those defenses. Not aggressively, not forcing your way in, but just by being exactly who you are. By showing up consistently. By being kind in ways that felt effortless and genuine. By making me laugh when I didn't think I had laughter in me. By listening, really listening in those moments when I did open up, even just a little. You never pushed for more than I was willing to give. Never made me feel like I had to be anything other than what I was in that moment. And somehow that made me want to give you more, made me want to let you see the parts of me I usually keep hidden, and that terrified me. Because I've been down this road before, or roads like it, and I know how it ends. I know that letting someone in means giving them the power to devastate you. It means trusting them with pieces of yourself that are fragile and valuable and irreplaceable. It means accepting that you might hand them your heart and watch them walk away with it. And I've had my heart broken before, badly enough that I swore I'd never put myself in that position again. I built walls so high and so thick that I thought nothing could get through them. I thought I was safe, but you got through. Somehow, despite everything, you found your way in. And for a long time, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to handle the fact that someone had become so important to me. That I cared so deeply about what you thought, how you felt, whether you were happy. I'd wake up thinking about you. Wonder what you were doing, if something good had happened to you that day. If you'd thought about me even a fraction as much as I thought about you. And then I'd see you, and my whole day would shift. Everything would feel lighter, brighter, more bearable just because you were there. And I hid it. God, I hid it so well. I became an expert at acting casual around you, at keeping my voice steady and my face neutral when inside I was anything but. I learned to time my glances so you wouldn't catch me staring, to moderate my enthusiasm so I didn't seem too eager, to play it cool even when being near. You made me feel anything but cool. I told myself I was being smart, being careful, protecting something precious by keeping it secret. But really I was just scared. Scared of what it would mean to admit these feelings out loud. Scared of how you might react. Scared of changing the dynamic between us and potential. Lie ruining the one thing that had come to mean so much to me. Because the thing is, having you in my life, even in this limited capacity, felt better than not having you at all. And I convinced myself that was enough. That I could be content with friendship, with these moments we shared, with this connection that felt significant even if it wasn't everything I wanted it to be. I told myself that wanting more was greedy, that I should be grateful for what I had instead of risking it all by asking for something you might not be able to give. But living like that, hiding how I really feel, it's exhausting. It's like carrying around this secret that grows heavier every day. This truth that wants desperately to be spoken but keeps getting swallowed back down. Every conversation we have where I want to say more than I do. Every moment we share where I want to reach out and touch you but keep my hands to myself. Every time you smile at me and I feel my heart do this thing it's never done for anyone else. And I have to pretend like everything's normal, like you're not completely undoing me with just your presence. And the silence, it comes with a cost. It creates this distance, this gap between who I am when I'm with you and who I really am inside, how I really feel. It means I'm not fully honest, not fully myself. And that bothers me more than I can say, because you, of all people, deserve honesty. You deserve someone who can stand in front of you without pretense, without walls, without fear disguising itself as caution. You deserve to know that you matter, that you've mattered for a long time in ways I couldn't quite articulate even to myself. I've replayed this moment in my head 1,000 times. Imagine different versions of this conversation, different ways I might tell you what's been building inside me all this time. And in every version, there's this fear that sits in my chest like a stone. Fear of your reaction, fear of misreading everything, fear that I've built this up in my mind into something that only exists for me, that maybe what I feel is one-sided, and I'm about to make things incredibly awkward between us. That fear is real, and it's valid, and it's been enough to keep me quiet for far too long, but there's something else too, something that's finally become stronger than the fear. And that's the realization that hiding this, keeping it locked away, is a kind of dishonesty I can't live with anymore. Not with you. You've been nothing but genuine with me, nothing but real, and I owe you the same. I owe you the truth about what you mean to me, even if that truth is messy and vulnerable, and comes with no guarantees about how you'll receive it. Because the truth is this, you've become the most important person in my life, and I didn't even see it coming. You slipped into my world so quietly, so naturally, that by the time I realized what was happening, you were already everywhere. In my thoughts when I wake up, in the stories I want to share, in the future I imagine when I let myself imagine one. You're in the music I listen to because certain songs remind me of you in the places I go because we went there together or because I think you'd like them. You're in my laughter because you're usually the cause of it. And you're in my silence too, in those moments when I'm alone and wishing you were there. And I don't know when it happened exactly when you went from being someone I cared about to being someone I couldn't imagine my life without. There wasn't one dramatic moment, no lightning bolt realization. It was gradual, like watching the sun rise. You don't notice each incremental change in the light. But suddenly the whole world is illuminated and you can't remember what the darkness looked like. That's what you did. You brought light into places I didn't even know were dark. You made me feel things I thought I'd forgotten how to feel. You made me want to be better, to try harder, to be someone worthy of the kindness and attention you give so freely, and I've been terrified of telling you this, because once I do, there's no going back. Once these words are out in the world, hanging in the air between us, everything changes. We can't unknow this. We can't go back to the comfortable simplicity of what we had before, and maybe that's for the best, because what we had before, as good as it was also incomplete. It was a version of the truth with the most important part left out. It was me showing up only halfway, giving you only part of myself while keeping the rest locked away where it felt safer. But safety is overrated. Safety is another word for stagnation, for settling, for choosing fear over possibility. And you deserve better than my fear. You deserve someone who can look you in the eyes and tell you exactly what you mean to them, without hesitation, without holding back. Someone who can be brave enough to risk everything for the chance at something real. And I want to be that person for you. I want to be brave enough to stand here and tell you that I've been hiding how I really feel, that I've been pretending everything's fine when inside I've been anything but fine. Because being near you and not being with you, really with you, has been its own kind of heartbreak. So that's what the silence was. It was protection that became a prison. It was caution that turned into cowardice. It was me choosing the illusion of control over the reality of vulnerability. And I'm done with it. I'm done pretending that what I feel is manageable or reasonable or anything other than completely consuming. I'm done acting like you're just another person in my life when you're the person, the one who's changed everything without even trying, without even knowing what you were doing to me. I can tell you exactly when it happened. Not when I started having feelings for you, because honestly, I think those crept in so slowly that pinpointing a start date is impossible. But the moment I realized what you meant to me, the moment everything clicked into place, and I understood that this wasn't just fondness or attraction or passing interest, that moment is burned into my memory like a photograph I can pull out and examine whenever I need to remember why I'm standing here now. Finally telling you this, it was ordinary. That's the thing that gets me about it. It wasn't some grand romantic gesture or dramatic circumstance. It was just a regular day, unremarkable in almost every way, the kind of day that usually blurs into all the other days and gets forgotten within a week. But something happened that day that I can't forget, that I won't forget. Because it fundamentally changed how I saw you, how I saw us, how I saw my entire life. We were together, doing something completely mundane. I don't even remember what it was exactly, some everyday task or errand, or maybe we were just sitting somewhere talking about nothing in particular. And you laughed. Not at anything especially funny, just this genuine, unguarded moment of joy over something small. And I remember looking at you, really looking at you, and feeling this wave of something so intense it actually stopped me mid-sentence. I forgot what I was saying. I forgot where we were. For just a second, the entire world narrowed down to you and this feeling in my chest that was so big I didn't know how to contain it. And in that moment, it hit me. This thought, clear as anything I've ever known. I want to hear that laugh for the rest of my life. I want to be the reason for it as often as possible. I want to know what you sound like when you first wake up, and what you look like when you're concentrating on something difficult, and how you take your coffee when you've had a bad day versus a good one. I want to know everything, every detail, every story, every scar and triumph and fear and dream. I want all of it, all of you. In whatever way you'll let me have it, it scared the hell out of me. Because I'd felt attraction before, I'd felt affection, I'd even thought I'd been in love once or twice. But this was different. This was cellular. This was the kind of wanting that doesn't go away when the initial excitement fades. The kind that burrows deep into who you are and changes your fundamental makeup. And I knew, standing there watching you laugh about something I can't even remember now, that my life had just divided into before this moment and after it, and there was no going back to who I was before I understood what you meant to me. I didn't tell you then. Obviously, I barely admitted it to myself. I went home that night and just sat with it. This enormous realization that felt too big to fit inside my ribcage. I felt like I was vibrating with it, like everyone could see it written across my face. And I was terrified because I'd spent so much of my life being careful, being guarded, keeping my heart protected from exactly this kind of vulnerability. And here you were, having demolished every defense I'd built without even knowing you were doing it, just by being authentically yourself. The days after that were strange. I started noticing things I'd been blind to before, or maybe I'd seen them but hadn't let myself acknowledge what they meant. Like how my mood improved dramatically whenever I knew I was going to see you. How I'd find myself planning things to tell you, storing up stories and observations throughout my day like gifts I was saving to present to you later. How I'd check my phone, hoping to see your name, and how my stomach would drop a little when it wasn't there, and how it would flip when it was. I started paying attention to the way you moved through the world, the little things that made you who you are, the way you're kind to people even when they don't deserve it, even when there's nothing in it for you. The way you listen, really listen, giving people your full attention, like what they're saying, is the most important thing in the world. The way you laugh with your whole body, holding nothing back. The way you furrow your brow when you're thinking hard about something. The way you touch people when you talk to them, these brief, casual contacts that probably mean nothing to you, but that I found myself craving like oxygen. And I realized I'd been cataloging these things for a while without even knowing why. Some part of me had been paying attention, collecting data, building this comprehensive understanding of who you are long before my conscious mind caught. Tee up with what was happening. I knew your favorite songs and the movies that make you cry and the foods you love and the ones you'll eat but don't particularly enjoy. I knew your tells when you're tired or stressed or upset about something you don't want to talk about. I knew the subjects that light you up and the ones that shut you down. I knew you in ways I didn't know other people, hadn't wanted to know other people. Because knowing someone like that, it requires investment. It requires showing up consistently and paying attention and caring enough to remember the details. And I had been doing all of that without questioning it, without wondering why I was so invested in understanding every nuance of who you are. It had felt natural, like the most obvious thing in the world, to want to know you as deeply as possible. But after that moment, after that realization, I couldn't pretend anymore that it was just friendship driving that desire. Friends care about each other, sure, but this was something else. This was the way you study something precious and finite, trying to memorize it all before it's gone, except I didn't want you to be gone. I wanted the opposite. I wanted you to stay, to be permanent, to be the constant in a life that had been full of temporary people and transient connections. And that wanting felt both exhilarating and absolutely terrifying because I had no control over it. You weren't mine to keep. You'd never promised me anything beyond friendship beyond these moments we shared. And yet here I was, having already handed you my heart without your knowledge, without your consent, hoping desperately that you'd choose to keep it. I started thinking about the future differently after that. Before, when I'd imagined what was coming next in my life, you weren't always there. I had plans and goals and vague ideas about what I wanted, but they were solitary visions, just me moving through the world alone or with some faceless theoretical partner who never quite came into focus. But after that moment of realization, suddenly you were in everything. I couldn't imagine a future that didn't have you in it. Or I could technically, but those futures felt gray and flat, like all the color had been drained out of them. You were in the small stuff. I'd think about getting coffee and imagine getting it with you. Think about traveling somewhere new and wonder if you'd like it, if you'd want to go there with me. Think about coming home after a long day and want nothing more than to tell you about it, to hear your voice, to have you there making everything. You have no idea what you've done to me. And I mean that in the best possible way, but also in the most terrifying way. Because you didn't set out to change me. You weren't trying to reshape who I am or how I see the world. And yet somehow you've managed to do exactly that. You've altered the entire landscape of my life without even knowing you were doing it, just by existing, just by being unapologetically yourself in my presence. It started with the small things. Actually, it was all small things accumulated over time until they weren't small anymore, until they were everything. Like the way you changed my mornings. I used to wake up with this vague sense of dread, or maybe not dread exactly, but certainly not excitement. Mornings were just something to get through, the obstacle between sleep and the rest of the day. But then you started texting me good morning sometimes, or I'd wake up knowing I might see you later. And suddenly mornings became something different. They became possibility. They became this gentle anticipation that made getting out of bed feel less like a chore and more like the beginning of something that might turn out to be wonderful. Such a small thing, right? The way you feel about mornings. But it matters because it's every single day. It's the foundation of how you move through the world. And you changed that for me without even knowing you were doing it. You made me want to be awake, to be present, to be ready for whatever might happen, because it might involve you. And then there's the way you changed how I experience music. I've always loved music, always had it playing in the background of my life, but it was just sound, just something pleasant to fill the silence. But now every song reminds me of you in some way, either because we listened to it together, or because the lyrics suddenly mean something they didn't mean before, or because I hear something and immediately think you'd like this, or this sounds like how I feel about you. I've made playlists I'll never send you, full of songs that somehow capture pieces of what I can't say out loud. Music isn't just music anymore. It's become another language for feelings too big to speak. I find myself listening to songs differently now, paying attention to the words in a way I never did before. And it's like the whole world has been writing about this feeling, this exact feeling. And I just never understood what they were talking about until you. All those love songs that seemed sappy or overdone, suddenly they make perfect sense. Suddenly they're not exaggerating at all. If anything, they're not capturing even half of what it feels like to be completely undone by another person. You changed what I notice. I pay attention to different things now. I notice flowers, because you mentioned once that you liked them. I notice the sky, because you're always commenting on sunsets and interesting cloud formations. I notice acts of kindness, because you're so kind that it's made me want to be more conscious of how I treat people, how I move through the world. You've made me more observant, more present, more aware of the beauty in ordinary moments, because you have this gift for finding beauty everywhere, and it's contagious. I notice colors differently. Sounds strange maybe, but it's true. There are shades of blue that remind me of something you wore, or green that's the exact color of your eyes in certain light. I see these colors now in places I wouldn't have registered them before. And each time it's like a little reminder of you. Like the universe is conspiring to keep you at the front of my mind, even when you're not physically there. You changed my relationship with silence. I used to be comfortable being alone, content in my own company, never feeling like I needed another person to complete my day. And I'm still okay being alone. I haven't become so dependent on you that I can't function without your presence. But silence feels different now. It feels like waiting. Like the pause between sentences when I'm hoping you'll say something else. I feel that silence thinking about you, wondering what you're doing, imagining conversations we might have, or moments we might share. Silence isn't just silence anymore, it's anticipation, and the noise is different too. When we're together and you're talking, I could listen forever. I'm genuinely interested in everything you have to say, even the mundane stuff, even the random thoughts that you think aren't important enough to share. But you share them anyway. Your voice has become my favorite sound. The way you laugh, the way your tone changes when you're excited about something, the way you get quieter when you're sharing something vulnerable. I've memorized all of it without trying, and now I hear your voice even when you're not there. Imagine what you'd say about things, carry on conversations with you in my head. You changed what home feels like. I used to think home was a place, four walls and familiar objects and the space where you keep your stuff. But you've taught me that home is a feeling, and that feeling is wherever you are. I can be in my own apartment, surrounded by everything I own, and feel displaced. And then I can be anywhere at all. And if you're there, it feels like home, like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. You've become my sense of belonging, my anchor, the thing that makes any space feel safe and right. It's disorienting sometimes, realizing that my entire concept of home has shifted to center around another person. Because that means I'm vulnerable in a way I've never been before. It means that my sense of comfort and belonging is tied to someone I don't control, someone who could leave, someone who might not feel the same way. But even knowing that, even understanding the risk, I can't unfeel it. You are home to me now, whether you meant to be or not. You changed my ambitions. Not in some grand, I'm changing my whole career way, but in smaller, more fundamental ways. I find myself wanting to be better because of you, wanting to be someone worthy of your time, your attention, your respect. You make me want to work harder, to be kinder, to be more thoughtful and intentional about my choices. Not because you've ever asked me to be different or implied that I'm not enough as I am, but because you set this example just by being yourself. And it makes me want to rise to that level. I'm more patient now, more willing to listen before speaking, more likely to consider other perspectives because I've watched you do that so naturally. So genuinely, you've made me want to be someone who contributes positively to the world because you do that so effortlessly, and being around you makes me aware of all the ways I could be better, could do better. You changed my plans, not the big ones necessarily, though those have shifted too in ways I'm still processing. But the everyday plans, the small decisions about how to spend my time. I find myself choosing things based on whether they might involve you, or whether you'd enjoy them, or whether they'd give me something interesting to tell you about later. I've rearranged my schedule more times than I can count just for the possibility of seeing you. I've said yes to things I normally wouldn't because you'd be there. I've said no to things I might have enjoyed because they'd mean missing tea. I'm with you. My calendar has reorganized itself around you. The things I look forward to most are the things that involve you. Everything else is just filling time until the next moment I get to be in your presence. And I don't even mind that my priorities have shifted this dramatically, because the time I spend with you is the time I feel most alive, most myself, most like life is actually worth all the complicated messiness it involves. You changed how I sleep. I think about you before I fall asleep, running through moments from our conversations, replaying the way you smiled at something I said, or how you looked when you were concentrating on something. You're the last thing on my mind before I drift off, and the first thing I think of when I wake up. And my dreams have changed too, become populated with scenarios involving you, our minds trying to process these feelings even when our conscious selves are resting. Sometimes I sleep better, because thoughts of you are comforting, like a blanket of warmth that makes everything feel okay. Other times I sleep worse, because I'm too busy thinking, too full of this energy that comes from feeling something this intense. Either way, you've colonized even that part of my life, the unconscious part I have no control over. You changed my appetite. Food tastes better when I'm eating it with you, or when I'm trying something you recommended, or when I'm imagining sharing it with you. I find myself thinking about meals in terms of whether you'd like them, restaurants in terms of whether you'd enjoy the atmosphere. I've discovered new foods because of you, tried things I wouldn't have tried. Expanded my horizons because you've expanded them just by sharing your preferences and experiences. And it's not just about food specifically, it's about how you've made me more open to new experiences in general, more willing to step outside my comfort zone, more interested in trying things because life is short, and you seem to understand that in a way I'm still learning. You approach the world with this curiosity and enthusiasm that's infectious, that makes me want to engage more fully, instead of playing it safe. You change my fears. I used to be afraid of different things, worried about career stuff and financial security, and all the practical concerns that seem so important, until you realize they're not actually what matters most. And those fears haven't disappeared entirely, but they've been joined and often overshadowed by new fears, bigger fears. The fear of losing you. The fear that you don't feel the same way. The fear that I've waited too long to tell you this and missed my chance. The fear that telling you will ruin everything we have. These fears are more acute, more visceral, because they're about something that actually matters in a fundamental way, but you've also made me braver. Because as scared as I am of all those things, I'm more scared of living my whole life without you knowing how I feel. I'm more scared of the regret I'd carry if I never took this chance. You've taught me that some things are worth being afraid for, worth risking everything for, and that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. You changed my definition of beauty. I notice beautiful things more now because you've taught me to look for them. A particularly stunning sunset. The way light falls through leaves, the architecture of old buildings, the sound of rain. All of these things I might have acknowledged before, but didn't really see, didn't really appreciate. But you point them out, you stop and actually look at them, and it's made me more attuned to the aesthetic richness of the world around us. And more than that, you've changed what I find beautiful in people. I'm less impressed by surface-level attractiveness, and more moved by genuine kindness, by authenticity, by the courage to be vulnerable. You embody all of those things, and being close to you has recalibrated my entire sense of what makes someone truly beautiful. It's not about perfect features or flawless presentation. It's about someone who's real, who's present, who treats people with respect and compassion. It's about someone exactly like you. You changed my handwriting. Strange detail maybe, but I noticed it when I was writing something down and realized my letters look different. A little softer maybe, a little more careful. Like even my handwriting is trying to be better because of you. Like you've affected me down to the smallest physical habits, the most automatic processes. Everything about me is slightly different now, adjusted to account for your existence in my life. You changed my patience with myself. I've always been hard on myself, critical of my mistakes, impatient with my flaws. But you're so gentle with people, so willing to see the best in them and give them grace for their shortcomings. And being around that, being the recipient of that kindness from you, it's made me wonder if maybe I could treat myself with more compassion too. If maybe I don't have to be perfect to be worthy of good things. You've never made me feel like I need to be anything other than what I am, and that's given me permission to be easier on myself. You changed my tears. I don't cry easily, never have. I'm good at keeping emotions locked down, at maintaining composure even when things are hard. But you've cracked something open in me, made me feel things more deeply than I used to. And sometimes that means tears, though I hide them from you. Tears of frustration when I can't tell you how I feel. Tears of joy after particularly good moments together. Tears of longing when I miss you. You've made me feel everything more intensely, and that includes the stuff that brings me to tears. You changed my relationship with time. Hours with you pass in what feels like minutes. Minutes without you stretch into eternities. I'm more aware of time now, more conscious of how I'm spending it, more grateful for each moment because you've taught me that the best moments are the ones shared with someone who matters. Time isn't just something that passes anymore. It's precious, finite, something to be used wisely. And the wisest use I can think of is spending it with you. You changed my handwriting and notes I take, the way I organize my thoughts, the things I choose to remember. I keep a mental catalog of things you've said, things you've done, moments we've shared. My memory has reorganized itself to prioritize you, to make sure I don't forget anything important about who you are and what you mean to me. You changed everything, really. The big things and the small things and all the things in between. You've altered the fundamental texture of my daily existence without even trying, without even knowing you were doing it. And I can't go back to who I was before you. That person doesn't exist anymore. You've transformed me into someone who knows what it means to care about another person more than themselves, someone who finally understands what all those songs and poems and stories have been trying to say about love. That fear is a funny thing. It disguises itself as so many other things that sometimes you don't even recognize it for what it is. It pretends to be caution, wisdom, patience, respect for boundaries. It whispers that it's protecting you, keeping you safe, preventing you from making a terrible mistake. And I believed it. God, I believed it for so long. I let fear dress itself up in reasonable clothing and convince me that staying silent was the smart choice, the mature choice, the only choice that made sense. But it was just fear, plain and simple. Fear of rejection, obviously, that's the big one. The fear that sits at the surface and is easy to identify. The fear that if I told you how I felt, you'd look at me with pity or awkwardness or worse, disgust, that you'd have to let me down gently, tell me you don't feel the same way, that you only see me as a friend. That fear is visceral and sharp, and every time I thought about telling you the truth, it would rise up in my throat and choke. The words before they could come out, I'd imagine the moment in detail, play it out like a scene I was rehearsing. I'd tell you how I feel, and there would be this pause, this terrible silence while you processed what I just said. And in that silence, I'd watch your expression change, see the moment you realized that our friendship was now complicated, that I'd made things weird, that you couldn't unsee this information. And then you'd say something kind, because you're always kind, but I'd hear the regret underneath it, the wish that I just kept my feelings to myself so we could have continued on as we were. That scenario haunted me, kept me up at night, made my palms sweat whenever I got close to saying something real. Because rejection isn't just about hearing no. It's about what comes after. It's about the aftermath, the awkwardness, the potential loss of something that matters. And you matter so much that the thought of losing you, even losing just the friendship we have, felt unbearable. But there were other fears too, ones that ran deeper and were harder to name. I was afraid of being seen, really seen, because keeping these feelings hidden meant I could maintain some control, some privacy, some protection around the most vulnerable parts of myself. Telling you would mean opening up completely, letting you see into the parts of me I usually keep locked away.